What's up guys, it's BST or Bono Sports Talk back with you guys again, giving you another video. And right before I start, I just want to quickly apologize for not uploading in a pretty decent amount of time. Just been really busy and I just forgot. But anyways, today's theme is going to be my personal top 6 most overrated sports cities. Now, when I say top 6 most overrated sports cities, I mean sports cities that are usually overrated in the sense that people believe that they have more winning in their history or they're just a better sports city in general than they actually are realistically. And so I've just compiled a list of these 6 cities that I believe are overrated when it comes to people thinking that they're a great sports city or just not even really realizing how bad they are in general. So when I say overrated cities, I don't mean the city itself, I don't mean the people in the city. So if you're from any of these cities, don't be offended or anything. I'm not trying to directly make fun of your city, I'm just talking about your sports teams. So let's just get right into it. So the first team that I have here for the 6th most overrated overrated city is Minneapolis, Minnesota, and their teams are the Vikings, Wild, Timberwolves, and Twins. And the only championships this city has is 3 World Series wins by the Twins. Now, not many cities deserve a championship more than Minneapolis, especially with all the unfortunate events that have led up to them only having 3 World Series wins for the whole city. The Vikings easily could have had so many more Super Bowls. It's just that they've just had so much unfortunate luck. But the reason why Minneapolis is on here is because the last championship, which was won by the Twins, the World Series, was won over 24 years ago, which is obviously not recent. And if you think about it, the Twins have not had success in their history except for the 3 World Series wins. The Timberwolves have not had success in their history, the Wild haven't, and the Vikings have had success in the playoffs, but realistically they haven't won a Super Bowl throughout all these years. So what does it amount to? Now, it also does kind of suck just to say that 3 teams out of the 4 teams haven't won any championships, and that just goes to show how this city doesn't really have much winning in their history, honestly. I mean, 24 years without a championship, that must suck for the fans. And honestly, I don't feel like people really recognize how bad of a sports city Minneapolis actually is until you look at how long ago it's been since any of these teams have won a championship. Now, they may have regular season success. The Wild, pretty good in the regular season, and the Vikings are usually pretty good in the regular season. However, this usually doesn't amount to much but a disappointing loss. So because of this, I have Minneapolis on this list. Up next is Atlanta, Georgia. The teams for Atlanta are the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Falcons, and the Atlanta Braves. Now, I don't have them on here either, but the former NHL team they had was the Atlanta Thrashers. I was going to include them on here just for the hell of it, but I decided not to because they really do much for the city. But anyways, the championships the city has is 1 World Series win by the Braves and 1 NBA title by the Atlanta Hawks. Now, this city is also very overrated, but at the same time, I feel like people kind of do realize how bad of a sports city this place actually is. But I'm still going to go over it now. I think that Atlanta, Georgia isn't quite overrated, but they just don't really. When people talk about bad sports cities, like they say Cleveland, San Diego, the actually bad sports cities, but people usually forget about Atlanta, Georgia. Obviously the Falcons have no winning in their history. The first they forgot was the Super Bowl, which ended up being a disappointing loss for their fans. The Hawks are always doing not too bad in the playoffs and also in the regular season, but the thing is that they've become so irrelevant in their city. I feel like even all the sports teams that are really historically well known, like the Braves too, are just not even relevant anymore just because they've become so bad. And you have teams like the Falcons who haven't made the playoffs in a long time. Same thing with the Braves. The Hawks consistently make it, but they've never really amounted to anything. It's been a long time since they've even gone far. Let's see here. So it says their last championship was won almost 20 years ago. Obviously, this is a clear indicator that they have no winning in their history. The whole city has pretty much always had a sports team in some degree, and only 2 titles across all those years is just not acceptable if you think about it. Now I'm looking up here, it says the Braves have won the championship that they have in 1995, and the Hawks won their championship in an astounding 1958, which, if I do the quick math, is almost 60 years ago, which is not very good at all. So honestly, this place is really overrated regardless if people recognize it or not. This city really needs to get some more production, but obviously that's got nothing to do with the people. It's just that the sports teams have just been very bad. So let's move on. My next city here is Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, whether it should have been this high up on my list or lower is up for debate. It's really up to whatever you think, but I recognize that this place only has 2 major league teams. I understand that, but I still think that they are pretty bad. And the reason why is because you have 5 titles, right? Cincinnati, you think that must not be bad, but 25 years ago, all right? So this is not even recent. This is 25 years ago. And also the Bengals too, they've had no playoff success. And the Bengals have traditionally been one of the worst playoff teams in NFL history. They haven't even won a playoff game since, I believe, 1991. But they've been a contender, they have been a playoff clinching team ever since 1991 consistently, all the way up till today. They'll still make the playoffs consistently, but they never get anywhere. Now, because of this, they disappointed their fans consistently, and so have the Reds too. I mean, the Reds have 5 World Series wins, but the most recent World Series win is, let me see here, 25 years ago. Like I said before, I forgot, but 25 years ago, that's not close. I mean, the Reds aren't even good now. It's just this kind of city is overrated in the sense that people don't recognize. That's the common theme in most of these places. People just do not recognize how bad these cities actually are until you look at the stats. Now, like I said before, I realize that this place has only got 2 teams, so I'm not going to go as harsh on them as I would some place like Minnesota who has 4 teams. But nevertheless, they are definitely still overrated. Moving on, we have Seattle, Washington. You guys probably did not expect to see this. Some of you maybe did, some of you didn't. The teams for Seattle, Washington are the Seahawks and the Mariners currently, and the defunct teams they had is the Seattle Metropolitans for the NHL and the Seattle Sonics or Seattle Supersonic Sonics, whatever you want to call it, for the NBA. And their total championships are 3: 1 in the NFL by the Seahawks, 1 in the NBA by the Sonics, and 1 in the NHL by the Seattle Metropolitans. Now, the reason why I have Seattle on here is simply because you have 4 teams really, that have really been contributing to the titles, and you only have 3. Now, I feel like this place is overrated because people think Seattle is such a great sports city. You know, the Seahawks are so good, the Mariners are so good. When you actually look at it, this city doesn't really have much to stand up for in terms of championships. You see, you have 3 championships here, and this place gets a lot of hype. Oh, it's such a beautiful city, which it is, but the teams there are not really that good if you look at it. The Mariners have nothing to show for. They haven't even been to a World Series at all, so they're out of the picture. And the Seahawks are the only team that have had success for Seattle recently, and even now, it's only been since the 2000s. I mean, you're talking 90s, 80s, this team has no success at all, and they're not even relevant at all. And now you have the Seattle Metropolitans, who did win the Stanley Cup in 1929 or somewhere around there. That technically does count as a championship for the city. However, you shouldn't hold this too heavy because they are a defunct team. Same thing with the Sonics. They won in 1979, I believe, so you shouldn't hold this heavy either. Which is, if I do the math quickly, it's over 35-ish years or something like that. For the Sonics, and obviously with the Seattle Metropolitans, we're talking like almost 80 years ago. So the city is really overrated in the sense that people just don't understand how bad the city is until you actually look at how many championships they have, and it's just kind of disappointing because if you think about it, take away the Metropolitans, you take away the Sonics championships, this city has 1 title, which actually, if you think about it, makes them more sports city than Cincinnati, and people don't even usually recognize that. Moving on, for our next overrated city is Toronto, Ontario. Now, you guys may or may not have expected this, but the biggest reason for this is just because this place doesn't win championships, or at least they haven't won anything recently. Now, obviously you're going to see this, you're going to see the screen, you're going to see championships, and you're like, wow, look at all these Stanley Cups they won. How could they possibly be an overrated sports city? Well, it's mainly due to the Toronto Blue Jays and the Toronto Raptors, who have been having lots of success recently. Now, everybody knows the Maple Leafs suck, alright? They made the playoffs once in like the past 10 years, which ended up being a first round loss. The Toronto Maple Leafs are just not very good. I mean, and the last Stanley Cup was let me look it up right here. I mean, you guys, I don't even want to tell you when the last time they won the Stanley Cup is. It's just disgrace. 1967, guys. 1967 is the last time they won the Stanley Cup. And if you go back to that day and you look at the number of teams are greatly smaller. And to win the Stanley Cup, it's not even actually like winning it. It's just like winning the President's Trophy. So I don't even really count these Stanley Cups like wholeheartedly, because they really didn't. Winning the Stanley Cup is not at the level it is now. And also overall, the Leafs have just been a big joke for the NHL. I mean, nobody really respects the Leafs. They're kind of like the Browns of the NHL, honestly. You know, they're winning way long time ago, but now they just totally, no one cares about them. The only reason why they're relevant at all is just because of the original six. So Toronto Leafs are out of the picture. The Blue Jays, even though they do have two World Series wins, in their history, that was 22 years ago, and although they're having success now, they still haven't really been amounting to anything. No titles. It's just that it doesn't really amount to anything. And then the Raptors haven't gotten really anywhere. They're usually pretty good in the regular season, or at least they have been recently with the younger players they have now. But once again, really not amounting to success. You know, they're getting second seed, third seed, fourth seed, pretty good placement in the regular season, but just don't amount to anything in the playoffs. And so, generally speaking, the city doesn't see much championships, or hasn't really seen much. Now, let's be honest here, none of you guys watching this were probably even following anything in 1967. So if you're going to say, oh, the Leafs have 13 championships, how can you do this? Even if it is however many years ago, 50 years ago. Guys, 1967, I doubt you guys were even alive to watch any championships in 1967. And same thing with the Blue Jays. Most of you guys probably haven't even seen any of the Blue Jays championships either. So, I mean, the city is very overrated in the sense that people think that, I mean, the city does have a lot of history in it, but people, because of that, think that they're very relevant, and they kind of overrate the city as a whole. But realistically, it's not even that good. Now, the city that I have is the most overrated city in all of sports is Washington, D.C. Now, this might be throwing you guys a little bit off guard. You'd probably be surprised, why would I pick Washington, D.C.? Or at least why would I put them this high? And the reason why I have all the Washington teams as the most overrated is simply because people they kind of don't understand that even though these teams have regular season success, that it doesn't amount to anything. Now, our teams here was the Washington Capitals won the President's Trophy. Washington Redskins finally made the playoffs. Washington Nationals, one of the best teams in MLB recently. And the Washington Wizards made the playoffs a year or two ago, right? So this city has seen a lot of success in the regular season recently. But if we go down to the championships, it doesn't get so pretty. So we have 3 Super Bowls here by the Redskins, and we have 1 NBA title by the Wizards. Now, you think that's not bad, right? 4 championships for the city could have been worse. Think about it this way. It's been 24 years, but like, how do you only win 4 championships with teams such as the Nationals, the Redskins, the Capitals, and the Wizards? And maybe not the Wizards, but the Nationals, the Capitals, and the Redskins have all really been held pretty highly respect-wise, just in the history for the leagues. Like the Nationals and the Capitals are having lots of success right now. The Redskins are usually held highly by people who follow the NFL a lot. Just like the Chicago Bears, even though they have success right now, people still respect the team because of the winning that they have in their history. But it's just overall, this city is very overrated because it's the capital of the United States. People think since their teams are good, it's a pretty good city. But when you look at the stats, they're very overrated. We have championships for Redskins in 1937, Super Bowls are in 1982, 1987, 1991. Obviously, not even close to today's date. And the NBA championship from the Wizards is in 1978, which is not close at all. So, I mean, this is a very, very overrated city, honestly. And it's just that, like, I feel like this city just gets way too much hype than they deserve. Now I'm gonna go back and go over them and stuff like that. So we have Toronto, Seattle, Cincinnati, Atlanta, and Minneapolis, and we're gonna just start again. So the 6th most overrated city, Minneapolis, then Atlanta, Georgia, then Cincinnati, Ohio, then Seattle, Washington, then Toronto, Ontario, and then Washington, D.C. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave me some comments down below. I know I probably didn't prepare a script for this as well as I should have, but Nevertheless, I appreciate all the support I can get. I mean, feel free to argue with me. I know there's definitely going to be fans of any of these teams in my subscribers or in my description, or sorry, not description, sorry, my comment section, and I can totally understand if you're pissed off, but this video is just kind of, just for fun, just for informative. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I'm just doing this for fun, guys. I was just kind of bored, so I figured that I might as well do something like this. So like I said before, yeah, if you just want to debate me or anything in the comment section, feel free to. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys about what cities you think are overrated sports-wise. A lot of you guys are probably gonna be pissed about the Seattle-Washington one, but it's fine. So once again, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, whatever, I don't really care. And I'll see you guys in my next video.